So I'll show you that as we're doing this. So what I've done so far is in these set of slides, deleting the cat, adding the witch from the fantasy folder, so scrolling down, get the witch, and then making her smaller, and then clicking off of the old version of Scratch used to have an arrow that you clicked on, but now you just click off of the mouse controls to get access back to the cursor to drag her. So the next thing we're going to do is change the background of our stage. And you can think of the stage as like an actual stage in a play where they can have different curtains, so different images for the background. And I think that's what you mean by a scene. So if we click on stage here at the bottom, the area where it shows your sprites, we have sprite 1 right now is the witch, and stage, you click on stage and then backgrounds and say import, and again it has categories. So you can do outdoors is where I was, and I scrolled down and got the city, night city. Click on OK. And you could have more than one background. So if you wanted to have a different background for our witch, we could add another one. Let's see, what else could we add here? How about the school for fun? So we could have her start off in the night city and at some point change to the school if you're interested, so you can see how you change scenes. Is that what you meant? About changing scenes? So I'm waiting to see if you're typing anything in the chat window about if that's what you meant by changing scenes. Okay, good. So it's easy enough to do. You just change the background image and that'll change the scene. If you look under looks, there's a switch background. So you can say control structure when the green flag is clicked. Then under looks, switch to background. We can say night city to start with. And then we could even say wait so many seconds, or we could wait for an event to happen, and then say you lost. So let's say we said wait 5 seconds, and then under look, switch to background school. So if we did that and click green flag, it will start with the city and then wait 5 seconds, and then it'll switch to the school. So is that what you meant by, so that should help you with changing scenes. You can just change the background image. But now we'll go back to working with our game. Yeah, that's one of the great things about Scratch. It's really easy to work with. So that's what we did with stages. You can have, of course, your background can have costumes, or background. Your stage can have backgrounds, and it can have many backgrounds, just like dropping another curtain on a stage. So we're going to now control the witch using the arrow keys. So we want to control her, so I'm going to click on sprite 1, our witch, and we are going to program her with when the certain key is pressed. We want the right arrow or the left arrow. So we're going to drag out of the control area when the space key is pressed, but it has a down arrow next to it, and we can change that to right arrow. So when the right arrow key is pressed, we're going to want her to move right, and when the left arrow key is pressed, we're going to want her to move left. And you have to understand a little bit about the stage in order to do that. So the stage in Scratch, the center of the stage is 0, 0, so this is the Cartesian coordinates. And moving right is going to increase the x value, and moving left will decrease the x value. And the x value can range from -240 to +240. And the y value ranges from -180 to +180. So knowing that, when the right arrow key is pressed, we want to move her right, which increases x. So if we just say move 10 steps, and if she's facing east, which she is currently, that'll move her in the right direction. We can change, 10 steps is a lot. Excuse me. We can change that by just clicking on the 10 and typing 5. And then we want to do the same thing but go negative when the left arrow key is pressed. So we're going to copy these blocks or tiles using the stamp up here in the mouse area. So if we duplicate these blocks and then change the right arrow to left arrow and the +5 to -5, then we can go ahead and try that out right away. I'm going to push the right arrow key on my keyboard she goes right, and when I push the left arrow key, she goes left. And like many things in Scratch, the default is that she won't leave the stage. So we'll still see the broom. She can't completely leave the stage, which is great in a game. We don't lose her. So are you doing okay? You keeping up with me? Kids tried forever to get that done. Well, yep. Sometimes that can be, you just have to know the right thing to do. So easy enough to change the scene. Easy to add response to arrow keys. So just doing what we just did, making sure you're working with the witch, and then adding when the key is pressed, and then moving 5 steps for the right arrow and -5 for the left arrow, is what you show here in the slides as well. And the next thing we're going to do is paint the pumpkin that we want to catch. So one of the nice things about Scratch is, yes, it does come with a lot of sprites here in the file folders, but you can also paint your own. So we can go to Paint a New Sprite. And a pumpkin is sort of a oval shape, so we'll use the oval or ellipse tool, and we'll pick an orange color, and we'll draw a pumpkin. And then we'll use the line tool with black, using the eyedropper to pick black here. And then you click and drag for each of the lines. So I'm trying to draw just some triangle eyes. I'm not an artist, so as you can quickly tell. So, and then I'm trying to draw just a simple mouth. It doesn't have to be beautiful. And then I'm going to draw a little stem for the pumpkin. And when I'm done, I just click on OK, and that becomes another sprite. And I can resize it as well. I can shrink it. And I can drag it up to the top here. So there it is up near the top, because we're going to have it fall, and we'll try to catch it with our witch. So these slides walk you through doing that, using the oval tool to draw the pumpkin and the line tool to draw the things on it. And now you have your sprite. And when the green flag is clicked, we want the pumpkin to start to fall down, so we'll use that. So in the control structures, when the green flag is clicked. And this is for the pumpkin. So this is one of the things you have to watch out with Scratch, is make sure you're putting the script on the correct sprite. And you can check up here is where the sprite is shown, so I can see that this is a pumpkin. I can also check over here that it's highlighted in blue, that that's my current sprite. So when the green flag is clicked, we want the pumpkin to fall. But Scratch doesn't automatically reset everything after you finish a game, so you want to start off with what's your beginning state. You know, how should the game look at the very beginning? So we want the pumpkin to always start at the top. So first we're going to make sure the pumpkin goes back to the top by dragging out a Go to X and Y from Motion. So if we click on the blue Motion category and pull out a Go to X and Y. And the default here is its current position. So it's currently at X is 6. The center of it is at X is 6 and Y is 152. So that's a fine location to start with. And then what we want to do is loop. We want to repeat, changing it by a little bit and checking to see if we've hit anything. And we could drag out change Y by -1 5 million times, but that would really be boring and repetitive. Instead, what we use is a loop structure, something that will repeat. So we're iterative structure, something that will iterate or change over time, or repeat something over time. And so we'll use the forever loop, which doesn't really mean forever in Scratch. It means until we stop the script. So in the control area, we can pull out the forever loop. And we can say change Y, so that's under motion. If there's a change Y by 10, we can change that 10 to, we want it to fall, so negative, we'll make it fall, -1. So if I click on the green flag, my pumpkin starts to fall. And it'll fall right through the witch right now, so we're not doing anything to see if she caught it, and then it gets stuck at the bottom. So we need to see now, we need to catch the pumpkin, and in order to do that, we probably want to keep a score, too, of how many times we caught it, and we'll increment the score each time we catch the pumpkin. So a score is something that's going to change over time. We call that a variable, because it varies, the value of it varies. So we'll, in Scratch, make a variable called score. So let's go ahead and do that in Scratch. The variables category is on the bottom right of the 2 columns, variables. And click Make a Variable. I'm just going to call it Score. And one of the really nice things about Scratch is it sticks it automatically in your display, and you can turn that off by just unchecking that box so I can see the score or not. I want to see it, so I'll leave it up there. You could also drag it to a different location if you didn't like it there, but then you can put it back wherever you want it. So I'm going to leave it over here in the top left. I think that's a good spot for it. So we added score. And we want to make sure that the score always resets when you start a new game. So not only do we want to go to this X and Y location, but we also want to set the score to 0 here as well. And then we change Y by 1, so it starts to fall. And then we want to check. We want to increase the score only if the witch caught the pumpkin, and that's called a conditional or an if. So we're going to check to see if we're touching if the pumpkin is touching the witch. And each of these is getting a name automatically, Sprite 1 or Sprite 2. We could always change these to make it a little nicer. So we could call this pumpkin, and we could call Sprite 1 witch, so we'd have an easier time keeping track of what's doing what. Witch. So if the pumpkin, so as the pumpkin is falling, it's going to change Y by -1. Then we're going to want to check. And so we're using the control structure an if. So we see if here, put that here. And we want to say if under sensing is if I'm touching something. So if this pumpkin is touching the witch, then we'll know that we should increment the score. So under variables is where there's change score by 1. So if you're touching the witch, then we should increment the score. So let's hit green flag and try that, see if that works. So when the witch hits the pumpkin, we see the score going up a lot because it's still touching the witch. So which is a good lesson for students that, you know, this is not probably what they expected to happen. They expected the score to go up by 1, but the pumpkin was still falling and still touching the witch, so the score went up by a lot. And it's a good lesson that computers do what you tell them to do and not what you wanted them to do. So what we really wanted was to push the pumpkin back up to the top once we caught it at some random location to make the game more interesting. So to do that, we're going to say, also go back to, and we're going to pick a random location in X from -235 to +235, and then the same Y we had before. So we'll go to motion and pull out the go to that X and Y location. And instead of, we want to use a random, which is in the green operators area. There's a pick random. We can replace the 6 with this pick random. So from -235 to +235, and then we're going to change the Y to be the same value we used before, which is 152. So now we try that. Green, pumpkin falls, and as soon as the witch catches it, it moves to another random location. If I catch it again, the score goes up and it moves to another random location. So that makes the game a little more interesting. But if I miss the pumpkin, then it just gets stuck at the bottom of the screen and I can't do anything. So I want to tell the user that he or she lost when that happens. So we want to say, hey, if you don't catch the pumpkin and it gets to the bottom of the screen, you've lost. And so we're going to add another sprite, a text sprite that says you lost. So in Scratch, if we go to the paintbrush again, paint new sprite, and this time we click on the T for a text tool, and we can change the font, make it Arial, we can make it a bigger size, make it 48. We can pick this black square up that shows us where it's going to be. We can pick the color and make it nice and red, and put you lost, exclamation. And that shows up, ooh, well, that red doesn't look great. We have my school here. We can go back and edit that. Click on you lost, costumes, edit. And I can just clear it if I want and try again. Oh, it won't let me clear that.